Precious metals are financial assets, and like currencies and T-bills and T-bonds, they trade in the multiples of 100 times the underlying physical.
Hey guys, John here with a silver update. I'm sure you've all seen that video where Jeffrey Christian talks about the paper to physical market in gold and silver. And when that video was released, it made its way around the blogosphere and obviously on YouTube. The thing went viral as pretty much every pundit and his dog claimed that that was proof effectively that the physical market is 1/100th the size of the paper market. Now, that number is obviously, that shocked everyone because, at best people were thinking 20 to 30 times, the amount of paper relative to the amount of actual physical. That was sort of the number. And when Jeffrey Christian came out and said this, and then all the pundits interpreted it as 100 to 1, then that just sent everyone in a spin, and all the conspiracy theories came flying. So I have never actually talked about this on my channel. I've never commented on it either way, mainly because when I saw that video, the full video, and that was just a section of it, but when I saw it the first time, I actually I wasn't of the opinion that that's what Jeffrey Christian was even saying in the video, so I never understood how people were making that conclusion that he was. Especially if you listen to the whole interview, you'll see later on that he actually clarifies what he means when he says the physical market, and he's also including things like options to buy physical in the future. So for example, if I have an option to buy a 5,000 ounce contract in the future, but it expires worthless, or even if it expires in the money or whatever, that is part of what they call the OTC derivatives market, and it's something that he included in his hundreds to one estimate of paper backing physical. But I'm going to just show you like a simple idea of what I believe he was saying in that video, and I think he's also clarified in a number of different like media articles around the place, which obviously haven't got as much air or as much playtime as the whole 100 to 1. There's 100 to 1 ounces of physical silver backing of paper backing physical silver. Basically, what for example, if I have one 5,000 ounce silver contract and I buy that from the COMEX, and say a week later or 2 weeks later or 2 months later, whatever the timing is, I sell that to someone else. They buy it, and then eventually they sell it, and this process repeats. It's still the same 5,000 ounces of silver, but it trades hands, say, 8 times in a given year. That's 8 times the underlying physical in paper, but there still is only 5,000 ounces of silver, and there's actually no more extra claims on that 5,000 ounces of silver. It's just that it's traded in any given year 8 times the underlying physical. That's how I understood what Jeff was talking about, on top of also how he mentioned also including options in that figure as well, and other derivatives. So there's nothing illegitimate about that practice. Obviously some traders even hold contracts for a matter of minutes or hours, those day traders who buy and sell in the market many times a day. So a number like 100 to 1, 100 times the number of paper contracts traded backing the underlying physical, it just seems like a correct number, and I never understood why everyone was interpreting it any differently. So what is the actual number then? What is the ratio of paper backing physical? Well, it's actually quite easy to figure out, and most people had figured it out before. It wasn't anything secret about it, and I'm basically just going to step through it now. You take the open interest in the CMEs. For example, we'll look at the COMEX market, since that's where the smoke is surrounding the market at the moment. And in the last COT report I looked at, there was 118,846 5,000 ounces of silver contracts available. So that's a big number. Let's find out how many ounces of actual silver it is. So you used to do the simple maths. 118,000 divided by 5,000 comes out with about 594 million ounces of silver. Quite a big number. That's the open interest. So the open interest is how many contracts there are where someone has a vested interest in that contract, either long or short. So, okay, 594 million ounces of silver. Well, let's have a quick look at what the COMEX silver inventory says it has in their warehouse. Now, mind you, this is actually what most of the metal bugs and analysts themselves use as, you know, this is quite drastic how low this number is. So it's not like these numbers are being fluffed up, because, you know, even the hardcore metal bug conspiracy theorists will come out and say that this number is correct as well. And the number is, well, it's about 31 million ounces. So we've got 594 million ounces versus the 31 million ounces that COMEX themselves say they have in their warehouse. So 594 million divided by 31 million gives you 19 to 1. Paper to physical is 19 to 1. At the moment, I'm sure that number changes from 15 to 25 to 1. This is just the example that I had using latest data. It's currently actually about 19.1 to 1. That is what is currently the paper to physical silver ratio. It's not 100 to 1. It's not what Jeffrey Christian was even trying to say. And again, I have to come back to it. I know, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to bash the industry, because I do believe that there is manipulation in these markets. It's certainly not something that I'm saying there's no manipulation. There is serious manipulation, and even if some of it is outright manipulation, some of it, like metals leasing, is not so much manipulation as much as it is an investment opportunity. You know, it is manipulation, but it's not what I would consider direct manipulation insofar as price setting. So I will go on in further videos just expounding upon the actual conspiracy theories I believe to be true in the metals markets and the actual manipulation that does exist in the metals market. But this isn't one of them, and this isn't something that, this is something that's just absolutely snowballed into this big thing, when if you just look at the numbers, it's not true. And the 20 to 1, which is what it currently is, 19 to 1, that's what most of the analysts were talking about before Jeffrey Christian's testimony, as being sort of, you know, the approximate number of paper to backing physical. But it seems like this testimony has been like an excuse for even the most experienced analysts in this market to jump on the bandwagon, when really that they know that they're kidding themselves by saying that number. It's not what Jeffrey Christian said. He's clarified it both in that testimony itself and in subsequent media pieces. And secondly, the maths is so easy to do, it's not funny. You know, you just take the open interest, divide that by the COMEX available inventory, and you've got it. That's it. That's how much paper is outstanding versus what COMEX say they have in the warehouse, and it's 19 to 1, and it's provable. And so anyone saying differently just isn't looking at the facts, or choosing to jump on the bandwagon, or choosing to ignore the facts. I don't know which one it is, only you can decide that, but it's 19 to 1, it's not 100 to 1, and you say, well, it's 19 to 1, that's still a really big number. Yeah, it's big-ish, it's not huge. There's other markets where it's even more, and it's not just for the silver market. It's not like only silver and gold have that sort of paper to physical. So it's really probably every market has that, and some have it a lot more than that. So if you're going to use that as an example of why silver is manipulated, then it's really, you can't single out silver or gold. It's really a common thread throughout the whole of the markets. It's a way, I guess, of providing liquidity to the market. You're allowing more speculation to come into the market, therefore the spreads on silver come right down. If it was 1 to 1 or 2 to 1 paper backing physical, the spreads on silver would be so big. And when I say spreads, I mean what it costs to buy and sell. You know, if it's $35 an ounce, for example, if you want to go out and buy 1 ounce round, you might have to pay $45 because there's no liquidity in the market. Right, so liquidity basically brings down premiums in the market. And similar, if you want to go and sell, then if silver's $35 an ounce, you might only get $25 for it. So it might be a $20. Okay, that's probably an extreme example, but I'm using one to paint my picture. Is that the spreads would drastically increase, and so it wouldn't be as an efficient market. So 19 to 1 is not a huge number. It's certainly by no means different, or it doesn't stand out from any other market that's out there. And so it's really not a talking point, and it's not a discussion point. It's like, let's focus on the issues that are really there. Let's focus on stuff we can prove, or stuff that we can really see smoke coming out of. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Let's focus on those issues and not the hype and not the hyperbole, which is really something that is in the last year on YouTube at least, but even in the blogosphere, has really taken over in this market. And I've been guilty of it in the past, absolutely. I'm not sort of separating myself from that. When I was first here on YouTube, I think every second video was a conspiracy theory video. I mean, of course, I said it was a conspiracy. There's no way to prove these things, but I was a newcomer into the market. When you're a newcomer into any sort of market, you tend to be a bit more gullible because you don't really know how to navigate those markets. But hopefully, as you evolve in whatever market you're looking at, you can learn to put the BS detectors up and say, well, maybe not that, and try and find your way within the market. So I'm just seeing a lot of that hype now come onto YouTube in the last 6 months to a year, and myself in this market, I want to be in these markets for a long time, and I think the only way I'm really going to be able to do that is if I can learn to navigate through all the BS that's out there and just try and get to the facts. So I'm not trying to say that I haven't been guilty of it in the past, or even propagating it, but I think in any sort of investment that you make, or any sort of research that you do, or any sort of anything you do, it's about growing with the market and maturing with the market. And my maturity or my growth and experience in these markets has just been something that I've documented on YouTube for the last 2.5 years. You sort of all came for the ride, but yeah, I'm rambling on a bit. To sum it all up quite simply, the current paper to physical ratio is 19.1 to 1, and the figures are all there for you to find that out for yourselves. Talk to you soon, guys.